The Power Factor Show with Rick, Steve, and Caleb. Episode 53.
You can find this podcast and others at Gun Rights Radio Network, gunrightsradio.com. Podcasting freedom.
Brought to you by Safariland.
Okay, so welcome to Power Factor. I'm Steve, and you probably remember that part, so.
And I'm Rick.
Good one.
Yeah.
So today we are actually at the USPSA annual Christmas party here in now Burlington, Washington. It used to be in Cedar Woolley, but USPSA has this year
fancy new office.
Fancy new location. So one of the things
you'd be surprised what your membership dues are paying
going
for around
to
here.
I shouldn't make it sound like that. It's not like wow, but yeah, I mean they're obviously looking out for the membership's best interests, and we have a very good interview here coming up with the executive director of the USPSA, Dave Thomas, and he's actually going to talk a little bit about that. But in terms, okay, fair amount. But one of the points I'll make here briefly is that they actually got a really good deal on the building here that they're in. So it's not like they went and said, "Oh, unlimited budget, here we go," or anything like that. And that's the one thing is that, I mean, the USPSA is a membership built above the members, and if they do anything wrong, the members are going to let them know about it.
And I can tell you this is a better place for a Christmas party than the old place in Cedar.
Yeah.
So just in case you're a member and you want to know, much better Christmas party here in Burlington.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so that's it. Hope you enjoy the interview. So today we're here at USPSA Nationals headquarters here in, well, technically now Burlington, was in Cedar Woolley for actually quite a few years. And we're here with Dave Thomas, who is the executive director of USPSA. So I want to welcome Dave to the program.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about what the role of the executive director is within USPSA, how long you've had that position, a little bit about the change here in location in the last year, which, by the way, we're here for the USPSA Christmas party. This is the first time that we've actually seen the building, and it is an amazing place, really definite upgrade from where you were at before.
No kidding. Well, the job of executive director for USPSA is essentially that of chief operating officer for the corporation. I'm responsible for staff, business management of the organization, budgets, and we run such marketing as we do. We try to develop programs. Some of those originate here. Some are at the direction of our board of directors. I work for the board of directors of USPSA, and of course our board is elected by the members. We are a non-profit 501c3 corporation, which adds some elements to the management that wouldn't be true in a for-profit corporation.
Right.
I've had the job since early 1996, and we moved. This is the fourth office that USPSA has had. The first one was actually a spare bedroom in the home of the then president and secretary, Dave and Marilyn Stanford.
Who are actually here at the party tonight.
They were.
To see them, yeah.
It was wonderful to see them. They're terrific people.
Yeah.
I was at that time in the screen printing business in Missoula, Montana, and came over for the 1988 Area 1 Championship held at Marysville. And
Which you and I shot, actually, by the way. That was my first actually large match that I had ever shot. So.
Actually, mine too.
Yeah, and yeah, Rob Latham was there, which was, well, he was there from what we heard. Never saw him, but that's a different story.
Yeah, there were a lot of good shooters there, and it was quite an eye. It opened my eyes. But I also met Dave and Marilyn on that occasion, and in conversation with them, made a proposal to become the screen print vendor for USPSA, and got that gig. But the first shipments that I sent to them was to their home in Cedar Woolley. The organization very shortly after that got too big for them to run by themselves. They had to have staff, which required an office space. Right. A few years later, they moved to another location right around the corner. 10 years ago, we moved that space to another location in Cedar Woolley. There were some issues with that building, the most significant being a mold infestation, which was creating some health problems with staff. We were fortunate, as our lease was expiring, we were fortunate to find this location, which was priced better than we had a right to expect. Because of circumstances, which I won't go into, but it worked out very well for us. This has been a real boon to the morale of the organization.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
People are healthier and happier here. And that, of course, makes my job easier.
Yeah. It's always nice to go into a work environment where you know you're not going to be sick or get sick or any health issues or things like that. So.
Yeah, not to mention the legal imperative to provide a safe work environment.
So, for as long as I can recall, in terms of being a USPSA member, the goal of 20,000 members was always a very, lofty goal. It was 20,000. I remember there was the program of 20,000, and I forgot what year it was, but it's been going on for. Not this year, but next year, so to speak, forever.
It was an elusive goal.
Yes, and it seemed like we always kept on creeping up very close to it, but never quite making it. So you have some very interesting news that happened in 2011 with regard to that.
Yeah, we broke that 20,000 member barrier, and I
congratulations.
Thank you very much.
It's been a long time coming.
And it was a matter of. The changes that were made in 2000 through 2003 finally gaining some traction, specifically the addition of the new divisions, production and single stack, and having Revolver in its own division, and Limited 10, which allowed, at that time, of course, we were still under the limited capacity provisions, and it allowed some people in other states to compete in Limited 10, where they weren't able to use that equipment otherwise. But all of that started to take traction in about 2004, and in 2003 we began to do some outreach stuff. I was invited to take place in some media outreaches that Michael Bain was doing at that time. And there were some amazing experiences involved with that. I've always been very grateful to Michael for inviting me into that. And we made contacts. We've never had a budget that would allow us to market in a traditional sense, in radio, television, newspapers, all of that. But we found that we could market just through contacts with the industry and with media people. And
now, did the Steel Challenge, did that provide a bump or in attendance or membership? Or
it has some. It hasn't taken full effect yet. It's we bought it in very late 2007, December of 2007, and building another membership organization from scratch is. Well, to be honest with you, it's a bigger project than I anticipated. And it's taking some time, but we are seeing progress. We are having some good results. Obviously, none of us, we would all be more pleased with faster results, but it is happening, and it will continue to. Steel Challenge is a great entry point for people who want to shoot competition. Our sport of practical shooting, while it's as much fun as you can have without laughing out loud, and actually when I do it, some people laugh out loud.
Dave and I have shot together for years. I've never laughed at you.
Which I've appreciated. I have seen you. I have seen you turning your back and covering your mouth, but while it's an amazing amount of fun, there are barriers to getting started. It can be intimidating to some people. There are things that we ask of our competitors that involve movement, all the rest of it that I'm sure your viewers are aware of already. Steel Challenge has very little of that. You, to a very large degree, stand in one place. You do the same thing on each stage 5 times. There's very little gaming of the stage until you get really competitive, and then there's always a way to do it faster, or at least you think there is.
Right.
But it's a much lower threshold as a starting entree into the sports.
So how do you view the move out of California now in terms of Steel Challenge impacting the participation?
We're looking for an increase. How significant? Significant it'll be the first year.
It'll definitely be in the upside, but the question is how much of an upside.
And I'm not going to sit here and throw out numbers because I haven't got a clue.
Right.
But Frank Garcia, who is one of the owners of the range that we're going to, is a man with...
which is the Universal Shooting Academy, if I'm right in Frostproof.
Correct, in Frostproof, Florida, which is only about a mile from Mickey Mouse. I say a mile. I'm sorry. I meant an hour.
Yes.
An hour's drive. So it's a wonderful tourist area, and it's about that distance to Tampa Bay, and you can go out to the other coast in about that amount of time. So there's a lot to see. By the way, I've been to the Kennedy Space Center, and that, if you haven't ever seen it, that's a wonderful trip. That's a great experience. But Frank has an enormous number of contacts in South and Central America, and they'll be doing on their own. He and Manny Bragg will be doing a lot of marketing for the match in that area. Area 6, which is USPSA area, southeast area, is a hotbed of Steel Challenge competition. And there are a lot of people up and down that East Coast area who are interested in coming. Plus, Orlando's an easy place to get to from almost anywhere. It's a very gun-friendly state, which brings us back to a contrast, which was one of the big reasons. We had a lot of people, both industry people and competitors, who told us they wouldn't be involved in the match as long as it was in California. I no disrespect to any of your viewers in California, but it's not a gun-friendly state.
They already know what they're dealing with.
So we're very excited about it. The range is set up in a manner that's going to make the match flow. I don't know if you guys have been to the Piru range, where it's been traditionally held. While that's a great range in many regards, it's not an easy range to get around on. There's a lot of hills. There's climbing the range. Some of the bays are separated. The events are separated. We had side events that were way down the valley that it was a long walk, or you had to get a ride down there. We had walk-ups that were much separated from the rest of it. The practice range was all the way down the valley. So setting up, the way this thing is going to be set up in Frostproof is that you'll drive in, you'll walk through the vendor tent to get to the ranges. You'll have
casino in Las Vegas.
same principle, yes. And there are ranges that come this way, and actually that's west to east, and then an aisle down, a row of bays going this way, and those will be side events, walk-up events and side events. Then you cross a little slough that they've got there, and they've built a bridge across it, and they've developed 18 brand new bays on the other side of it, and the practice bays are going to be on one side and the competition bays on the other side. So everything is right there. Everything's easy to get to,
easily accessible,
visible. There were things going on at Piru that people coming to the range didn't even know about. So it's pretty exciting for us, and Universal Shooting Academy has been incredibly hospitable to us. They've been wonderful to deal with. So we're really excited about it.
So what's the prospects at the local level? I mean, like one of the clubs in our Northwest section has created all the steel necessary for Steel Challenge. Are you expecting a large increase in local matches? I mean, as part of the process of growing the sport, are we going to see more? You know, we don't have to travel to Florida or wherever to shoot Steel Challenge. We'll find more local matches.
And you've put your finger on one of the key issues that we've got right now. We're in the process of developing benefit packages to give people a reason to do that.
Right.
And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. We have not so far given local clubs, local organizations, a really good reason to affiliate with USPSA or to Steel Challenge Shooting Association.
Right.
But that's coming, and I'm not going to. I don't want to sit here and talk about some of those things because they're ideas in development.
Right.
But I'm going to guess that a year, 18 months from now, people will be affiliating their competitions with SCSA for much the same reasons and to much the same degree that they affiliate with USPSA on the practical shooting side.
I think that's one of the hurdles from a lot of the club's perspective is that most of them are set up for USPSA shooting, and the steel that they have are in the form of pepper poppers or 8-inch plates or whatnot. And for Steel Challenge, you're looking at a different array of targets. So now they're looking at a capital investment of going out and buying all of this new steel for something they really don't know what kind of an interest or involvement they'll have, and it's a gamble from their standpoint. So it sounds like from what you're saying without actually coming out and saying, and I think I understand, is that there might be some incentive or support or something in that form, possibly.
Some of which already exists, but there's hopefully more coming. And I'll also point out that for Tier 1 matches, which are the local level matches, they can use those poppers. They can turn them around and use those poppers. There's no requirement that they shoot
Dedicated.
They can develop their own stages. They can use their own targets. The only thing they won't be able to do if they do that is take part in any kind of national ranking system, which is coming. So that's one of the big issues that we haven't done a very good job of communicating that because a lot of people don't know it. But for those local matches, there's no reason in the world that they need to go out and make that investment.
That's good to know because I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the local clubs that are out there right now, if they did not know that, they'll now know that from watching this interview. That's available to them to do that. So.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing about steel, I ran a club in Missoula, Montana for a few years, and I say I ran it.
Club? That is the nicest range that I've ever been to in my life.
You should have seen it the first time we held a match out there. I walked out there and spent the only real pistol bay that was available to us was that first 50-yard bay that when you drive up, the one with the cover. That was the only pistol bay on the place. For the first match that we held, which I sponsored, my business sponsored, I went up there, and that thing was sheetgrass and knapweed and rocks and broken glass, and I spent one full day walking it, throwing all that stuff out, and another full day on a riding mower knocking it down enough to use it to put on this match. And then we had the 100-yard range, which was right next door, just to the west. So we we held that match. It was the Hunting Shack Munitions Color Unlimited Practical Pistol and Revolver match. T-shirts were just, I mean, they were if you used the initial to look like a railroad. It was at that time, and this was 1984. And that was the biggest action shooting practical match ever held in Montana at that time. We had about 50 shooters, so which is a decent club match here now. So anyway, it was the point I was leading up to. I got into this big long story, but we had one of our members was Judy Woolley, and Judy Woolley at that time was an up and coming shooter. And she and her husband Charlie were going to the Steel Challenge at Piru in Southern California. So in April we said, okay, we'll set up a steel match so that you'll have a chance to practice.
Yeah,
Because this was the first of our members to ever go to a match outside of a 120-mile radius, and so we had some of our members knew how to use torches, and we bought some material, and they cut the plates out and cut the stands and developed some bases. And while the stands got shot up, the steel plate that was built at that time is still in use by that club.
Really?
Wow.
And that was probably by the first time we did that match, it was 85 or 86. The point I'm trying to make is that once you make that initial investment, it is steel, what are you buying? You don't have to buy targets and replace them every match. You don't have to buy tape. You don't have to buy plywood and stuff to repair your props. Once you've got the initial investment made, you buy paint, and you're done.
Well, and from the shooter's perspective, I was talking with the guys I drove up here with, here where it's rainy and cold all winter, you not only don't have to buy tape, the shooters don't have to tape. I mean, that's the attraction to me. I can stand under cover until it's my turn to shoot. I go out there and shoot, and then I'm back under cover again. I'm not constantly going down range to tape. There's no plastic bags.
Right.
Shooters in other parts of the country maybe don't know about plastic bags, but for winter especially, it's really attractive.
Yes.
You just don't have a lot of that stuff that makes shooting, from my perspective, shooting in the rain really miserable. You don't have to do that stuff.
Yeah, you reach a certain age when you start using judgment about when you'll shoot.
Exactly.
I found that if there are 2 years ago. I found that if there are plastic bags involved, I pretty much stay in my living room.
That's kind of the attitude we've taken recently. It's raining outside.
Yeah, thank God we get some young people in this sport.
Exactly. They're not smart enough to know.
I think one of the attractions, at least from the public standpoint of Steel Challenge, is the fact that you're looking at, so to speak, reactive targets. I mean, from a spectator standpoint, when somebody shoots an IPSC target, they can't see the holes going through the target. They have no clue whether the target's been hit or not. But steel, you hear the ding, you see it move, and it's exciting from somebody who's standing back there watching somebody shoot it.
Right, and depending on the stage design, you may not even be able to see the shooter. You may just be hearing the shots fired from the spectator area. And you're absolutely right, and particularly the matches that can use a wired stop plate, which is a continuity-based vibration switch that trips when the stop plate is struck, then it stops the timer. And if you can use that in conjunction with a large display unit so that the public can see it,
everybody sees the time.
And that, of course, is another investment that a lot of people don't want to make. There are some maintenance issues with maintaining the wiring. If you can set it up and leave it, if your range allows that, it's a great way to go.
Yeah, the timer aspect, I think, really, I know what you mean, is that the spectators can literally see the time from one person to the next, and if they remember what the last person shot, they will know if the next person actually beats that time or doesn't beat it. And that's a really good, I think, thing from a perspective standpoint, a spectator to be able to see and mentally judge, the competition. And
seeing that is amazing. I was standing in the back of the range when Max Michel shot Smoke and Hope in 1.76 seconds. And that's from hands in surrender position, drawing the gun, hitting 4 large targets, and then a 12-inch plate at, I think it's 14 yards. I've forgotten the exact distance, but it's something in that neighborhood.
Right.
And to be able to react, that 176 is, on a good day, my first shot. So
something similar.
The thing is, if you're standing back there and that happens, you don't actually see it.
Right.
I mean, you can't replay the video in your own mind. Right. And then having that display up there is very significant under those circumstances.
Yeah.
But
so where do you see things going in 2012? And we're coming to the end of 2011. We've made a lot of progress in terms of membership. You were talking earlier about how production is now beginning to become very close to limited division in terms of participation. What do you see for 2012?
Well, hopefully more of the same. We've got some things coming along that I'm not at liberty to talk about. Some changes. We want to continue to promote and to make Steel Challenge more successful. We're going to change direction on some things just in terms of the way we're marketing it and the way we're working it. USPSA has grown to the point now where it is to a degree self-sustaining, and there's an engine running that continues to create growth and create activity, and I'm not saying it doesn't require maintenance, because of course it does.
It does, yeah.
But it's our real challenge in this next year, and probably next several years, is to translate that success. But our challenge and our goal is to make is to use Steel Challenge as a way to continue to grow USPSA and vice versa. The Scholastic Steel Challenge program is important to us because it involves youth, and I don't know if you're aware of the collegiate division that we've created recently that's getting a lot of interest on the East Coast particularly. There's actually going to be an SSC National Championship match held at Fort Benning in, I think it's March. It's going to be part of their Army Experience Week at Benning. And in fact, I believe it's part of the NCAA Shooting Championships held there. And we're going to be a big part of that. So that's exciting.
You see the growing of the sport that we've seen over the last few years of getting, the kids involved in this, of the next generation of coming up, and yeah, I think it's really important.
Yeah, you're right. Somebody comes up, these marketing people come up to us at SHOT Show or someplace and say, well, the first thing we have to do is figure out your demographic. Well, let's see.
Yeah.
40 to 60. Overweight, balding. Yeah. You want a picture? Yeah, we kind of know what that demographic is, and it's the existing demographic, not the desirable demographic, right. And that's part of where I see the Steel Challenge. I see Steel Challenge as while USPSA is a family sport. Once those barriers that we discussed earlier are overcome, steel is as we said, a sport with lower barriers,
right?
Less challenges,
and that gets them into it and involved in the next step.
You bet.
Is going to be USPSA.
And yes,
yeah.
And kids can pick this sport up. You can do this with 22s.
I was going to make a point about that. Is that USPSA doesn't recognize anything less than 9mm.
Correct.
But Steel Challenge does recognize 22. I don't follow it exactly, but is there a division entirely just for? So
yeah.
It is a great way to enter into the sport with 22s, and then as you progress, go into higher caliber and then into USPSA.
Right. Obviously, the 22s compete against 22s.
Exactly.
They don't compete against the larger calibers.
Yeah,
right.
Fire, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. Something you had mentioned before about USPSA being a 501c nonprofit. I think this is an important thing for those of you who work for corporations who annually have what Bruce Gary, who used to be the Area 1 director, referred to as the corporate giving season through, what was it, United Way or something to that effect. And with United Way, and I don't know how this applies to all of you, but at least at my corporation where I work at, we get this annually, where on the United Way form you can claim another 501c, and it's a great way to actually donate to USPSA, being a 501c corporation. So keep that in mind, annually if you do have the corporate giving season, you might consider doing something like that. So I just want to
be very much appreciated.
Throw that in there.
Sure.
It's something that I didn't know about until Bruce mentioned it on one of the forums, and I thought, really? And sure enough, so I went in there and did it. And
well, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I made a point of doing that. So it's kind of neat to follow through with the company's goals of supporting United Way, but at the same time supporting USPSA at the same time.
I've found it kind of amusing, especially for those people, those of our members who work for corporations which are not exactly pro-gun.
I would say I work for one.
And so does Bruce.
Yeah.
So there's a certain amount of.
At least he can say their company has a shooting club.
Yes.
I can't. Yeah.
But they have. He finds it somewhat entertaining to have that corporation writing a check.
Yes.
To us periodically.
Yeah.
And of course, as I say, it's greatly appreciated. That generosity is we try to use that money to the very best to benefit our members. We are the only major shooting sport where the members elect their leadership. They elect their area directors. They elect their president.
Speaking of which, we have a new president.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. Phil Strader will take office on January 1st of 2012, after 12 years of Michael Voigt's presidency, and Mr. Voigt did a terrific job in helping grow this sport. There's no way that we can deny that his contributions were significant.
Definitely. Yeah.
We wouldn't be where we are without him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've always been blessed with good leadership in this organization. Dave and Marilyn Stanford, that we talked about earlier, they established a foundation for this organization that's just beyond belief. And Andy Holler came along and did a good job of keeping things going, and then
started during the Andy Holler days, so
right.
Go back to that standpoint, or
right.
time frame.
And then Michael took office in 2000 and was there 12 years and did a terrific job. So
it'd be interesting to talk to Dave sometime and ask him when he started this. Did he really see it going this far? Maybe he did. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Are you interested in any history on that?
Well, I have read a bit of the history about Dave and whatnot, but that might be a good case for a second interview sometime.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah. So. Yeah, right.
And Dave is a better source of that than I. But
get straight from the man, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing about that I've always found, and I'm going to just a little tidbit.
Yeah.
I told you I could talk if nothing else.
Dave can shoot too. I'm shot with Dave.
I'll slip you that 20 later. USPSA used to be, well, it wasn't USPSA in those days. It was IPSC in the U.S. It was the IPSC region. It used to be run by the section coordinators. There wasn't any board of directors.
Okay.
And they finally decided they needed an election to replace the guy who was serving as the regional director then. It wasn't the presidency. It was just a regional director for IPSC. And so the two candidates were Dave Stanford and Richard Heine. Excuse me, not Richard Heine. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Walt Roush.
Okay.
And I have been told that Dave won because Richard Heine canceled at the last minute and didn't attend the meeting. Now Dave may deny that, and if he does, believe him. But that was one of the stories that I got. Anyway, enough of the history. I'll let you talk to Dave.
That actually also has to do with why the headquarters for USPSA landed here in Cedar Woolley. And if I have the story straight, because the fact that Dave was here, he said, fine, I'll be president, but as long as the HQ is located here. And it's stayed here ever since, even though Dave has obviously, transferred the presidency onto the next, and so forth. It's stayed here.
Yeah, Dave is a retired Seattle police officer.
Right.
And they built a retirement home up here. And there wasn't any compelling reason for the presidency. In those days, there wasn't any money, so it wasn't like they had a headquarters somewhere.
Right.
Dave and Marilyn built that, and it's been proposed several times over the years that we move to a more central location, that we have our own range, that we do all of these things.
A proposal that was made,
and
push that was made some time ago.
Right, and there just isn't any reason in this day and age of electronic communication. There isn't.
Fax
it doesn't.
Machine,
It really doesn't matter where the headquarters is.
Right. Yeah.
So, and we've even got people here on staff who do some of their work from home.
Yeah.
I've got VPN myself. I can work from my home and get into the.
It's funny in terms of Dave. Dave had not really been visible in the section for quite some time up until last year, and I didn't realize that Dave is actually a member of Marysville, which is my home club. And I was at a match setting up, helping do setup, and he happened to be wearing his badge. And I looked at his badge and I saw Dave Stanford, and I said, you wouldn't by chance be the infamous Dave Stanford, who used to be former USPSA president? And he looked at me, and I'm not kidding, without just missing a beat, his response is, "You're not going to shoot me if I say yes, are you?" So it was really an honor to talk to him, and yeah, it was. I can say.
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago. In fact, I think twice now. Dave and I have traveled to the Single Stack Nationals and shot with John Amadon and Pat Sweeney, and on one occasion Michael Bain and some of the other. We called ourselves the Dinosaur Squad.
Yeah, Michael Bain had mentioned this during one of his recent podcasts about how he would all of you were going to shoot together. And it seems like Michael always comes up with an excuse of why he can't make it, which is probably another discussion. Hi, Mike. At any rate.
Well, he made it once. I think he made it the first time, and that was a real kick. But to shoot with Dave Stanford and with John Amadon, who was the director of NROI and has been there from the beginning, was just one of the great experiences I've had.
Definitely.
Yeah, a lot of fun. And Michael introduced me to single malt Scotch, which.
Oh, well, that could be a whole Boy, we could have a good topic there. So,
Well, speaking of a drink,
yeah,
the party's still going up there.
I think so.
Yeah,
we better get back to it.
So I want to thank you, Dave, for coming on.
Been my great pleasure. Thanks for letting me ramble.
No, it's worth it.
Definitely. All right, thanks.